Just Mitch's family this year. No party, no calls, just 6 brutal words from Mom, sitting there on my phone like a punch straight to the gut. I was in my corner office at the time, 4th floor, glass walls staring down at the Hudson, and I swear, my stomach felt like it had been ripped out. I stared at the message, blinking, willing it to disappear, but it didn't. Mitch, 3 years older, golden boy since birth. Could sneeze and the world would call it genius. Stayed in Indiana, ran Dad's equipment shop, married his high school sweetheart, had 3 kids, 2 golden retrievers, the whole picture-perfect Hallmark family. Me? I built a logistics empire from scratch. No credit, no handouts, nothing. Sold it last year for $180 million. Not bragging, just stating the cold, hard fact. Yet, in their eyes, I was still the odd cousin who went off to play with computers. I'd been toying with the idea of hosting this year, but that text made it clear. It had to happen now. My first time hosting. I bought a 38-acre ranch outside Asheville. Custom lodge, wraparound porch, trout-filled lake, mountains that could have been painted. They had no clue. I planned to shock them. Instead, shock came first, from Mom's thumb. I didn't reply. I leaned back, watching a cargo ship crawl up the Hudson. Famikong, that ache I'd carried since childhood. The ache of every birthday forgotten, every school achievement dismissed, every holiday dinner spent at the kids' table while Mitch carved the turkey and Dad boasted about the shop. Finally, I typed one word, enjoy, sent it. No questions, no pleading, no begging for a seat at a table I wasn't invited to. That was it. Then I made the call. I wasn't showing up this year, not to sit in silence while Mitch soaked up all the attention. I was done being invisible. That text, it wasn't new, it was just louder. Growing up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, I was always the other son. Mitch had his photo in the paper at 16. Local star quarterback leads Northside to playoffs. Free pie at diners, pats on the back, the works. Me? I hid in the garage, soldering a half-dead boombox back to life. Loved the hum of wires, the thrill of a puzzle. While Mitch ran football drills, I learned to rebuild motherboards from scraps. Mom never got it. Hey Mom, I got 2 computers talking downstairs, I'd say. She'd glance up from her People magazine. That's nice, Danny. Then the inevitable, did you hear Mitch might get scouted? Or, Becky's parents are so proud of him. Becky, the cheerleader, braces, blonde, used to wave. That was it. I wasn't part of their world. Even my scholarship to Georgia Tech? Dad shrugged. Georgia's far. You sure you don't want to stay closer like Mitch? It hit me then. They didn't see me, not really. At every family dinner, I'd talk about my classes, my projects, and within 10 seconds, Mom would jump in. Oh, Mitch is thinking of expanding the shop. Every time. I sat at the kids' table, right there, yet invisible. They even forgot my 22nd birthday. Called home, Mom's fake surprise, empty promises. What arrived a few weeks later was a Christmas card. Mitch's family, all in matching sweaters, grinning like a Hallmark cliché. No note, no signature, just that damned photo. I kept it, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder of how effortless it was for them to leave me out, like I had never existed. Years later, I would overhear Mom and Dad telling anyone who'd listen. Mitch took over the family business, stayed local, raised his kids right. Not a single word about me. Not the contracts I'd signed, the teams I'd led, the logistics empire I was quietly building. Just silence. Complete erasure. I remember flying back once for a family BBQ. I was already running my first logistics startup, working around the clock, burning out trying to keep payroll together every week. I brought Mom a handmade wooden jewelry box from Colorado, carefully wrapped. Thought of you when I saw it, I said. She glanced up, murmured, "That's nice," then went back to her conversation, like I hadn't even spoken, like I wasn't there. Those years piled up, little cuts stacking into something heavier. I said nothing, kept moving, city to city, tiny apartments, missed holidays at home, but never truly famikahang home anywhere. No matter how far I went, how much I grew, I was still the kid in the garage, the quiet one, the invisible one, the one Mitch's family never mentioned, never praised, never remembered. By the time I turned 24, I was sleeping on an air mattress in a one-room flat off Delmar Boulevard in St. Louis. Paint, pamikahang, Radiator rattling like it had asthma, no AC, barely enough heat in winter. 5 nights a week I survived on canned chili. The other 2, I debated whether I could afford eggs and toast. Didn't matter. I was building something bigger than comfort, something no one could erase. I ran freight on the side, just enough to keep the internet alive, and coded late into the night, sketching out an app to predict supply chain delays for small hospitals. At the time, it seemed insignificant, maybe even foolish. Nobody cared about predictive logistics yet, until the shelves went bare. One broken link, one missed shipment, and people could die waiting for ventilators. I saw that, and I worked. 14-hour days, weekends disappeared, birthdays forgotten. A girlfriend left because I couldn't be present enough. Gas station coffee became my lifeblood. I failed twice. First, a bad investor. Second, scaling too fast. Nearly lost it all, but payroll never missed. My team stayed because they knew I'd bleed before letting them go hungry. This wasn't just work. It was survival. It was a lift my Connie. It was building trust through sweat and sacrifice. When COVID hit, hospitals started calling fast, and suddenly, everyone needed what I'd been quietly building. Real-time rerouting of medical supplies became life-saving. Blood from Tennessee could be redirected to a trauma unit in Chicago before nurses even realized there was a shortage. Invisible, essential. By year 2, we were running logistics for 37 hospital systems across 3 states. Sleep, forgotten. Living on adrenaline, spreadsheets, and takeout boxes. Then came the offer. A Fortune 100 company wanted to buy us. At first, I thought it was a scam. I checked and double-checked, numbers real, wire transfer real, ink dried, and suddenly I had more money than I knew what to do with. Enough to retire thrice, enough to disappear entirely if I chose. So I did. Bought a 38-acre ranch outside Asheville, North Carolina, secluded, pure air, space to breathe. I didn't tell anyone. Just me and a builder I trusted. No flashy architects, no greedy developers. Trees thick as molasses, wind slicing through the pines like a knife. 18 months of work. Timber frames, exposed beams, stone fireplace you could stand in. Great room with glass walls framing the lake I had dug and stocked with trout. Kitchen counters of black walnut cut on site. Every detail hand-picked. Not for show, but for quiet control, for peace, for a life that couldn't be erased. People think money changes you. It doesn't. It reveals what you were chasing all along. For me, it was control. Invisibility turned into power. Something untouchable, undeniable. No one in my family knew. Not mom, not dad, not Mitch, not even cousins. I wasn't hiding to spite them. I owed them nothing. This wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about creating something they could no longer ignore, something no one could claim, and maybe, if I'm honest, something I could finally claim for myself. That night, after sending that single-word reply to Mom, I poured a scotch and stared out the window. The Hudson stretched black and endless beneath the sky, flecks of light from the bridges flickering like distant warnings. My phone buzzed every so often with some email or calendar alert I didn't care about. I scrolled to Calvin, my cousin on Dad's side. We weren't close, but he was steady, Micah Hable, always honest. I hit call, second ring. He answered. "Hey man, what's up? You get invited this year?" A pause. "Nope, Mitch's crew only. That's what your mom said. Immediate family. First time in 30 years, we're not going." I leaned back, jaw tight. They did this to everyone. "Yeah," he continued. "Even Grandma called today. Pissed. Nobody else got an invite." My chest tightened. They weren't just shutting me out. They were cutting the whole family loose, just to make room for Mitch and his perfect little show. "You want to do something else?" I asked. "Somewhere better? Somewhere they can't control?" "I've got a place," I said. "Big enough for 30. Silence. "You serious?" "Yeah," I said. "North Carolina. Lodge in the mountains. You get here, I handle the rest." A low whistle. "Damn. Danny, let me talk to Kayla." 20 minutes later, the text started rolling in. We were in. By morning, 10 RSVPs. More came after. Cousins bringing wives and kids, one volunteering to smoke a turkey, Aunt Lila asking if she could bring her famous apple pie. And then Grandma texted. Didn't even say hello, just, "Tell me when to pack." That hit me harder than expected. In all those years, nobody had ever come to me for a holiday. They assumed I'd show up and sit in whatever leftover seat existed. Not this time. I spent the next day planning, mapping room layouts, booking nearby cabins, calling in favors. Cost didn't matter. Comfort did. It had to feel like a real holiday, not a sad exile potluck. Calvin texted again. "You sure we're not intruding?" I shot back. "You're the guest of honor." Thumbs up. Then, "Can't wait to see what you've built." Neither could I. For once, it wasn't about proving anything. It was about choosing who I wanted at my table. A week before, I flew to Asheville, landing just before sunset. Mountains ablaze in orange light, air sharp with pine and cold earth. First stop, the ranch. Windows down, breathing it in. I'd really done this. Tom, my estate manager, met me at the front steps, clipboard in hand, walkie clipped to his belt. "We're feeding 30, I told him, "and I want it perfect." "Got it," he said. "Chef's confirmed." "Past hors d'oeuvres or buffet?" "Neither," I said. "Family style." Big plates, full table room by room, we prepared. Bedrooms deep cleaned, fresh linens, baskets with personal touches, bourbon and smoked almonds in Uncle Ray's, crossword books and magnifier lamp in Aunt Lila's, toy trucks and gummies for the twins. No one was showing up famisiang like an afterthought. We hired a local chef with Appalachian roots. She brought cast iron pans, said Grace before prep. Nearly cried when she saw the kitchen. By Tuesday, cabins were booked, stocked, firewood stacked, cider ready. Great room seating perfect, surround sound, set for Grandma's jazz CDs. Thursday morning, they started arriving. Calvin first, rented SUV, Kayla, and kids in tow. He stepped out, eyes wide at the lodge. "Holy shit. You made it," I said. He shook his head, still staring at the beams. "This is yours?" "Yeah," I said. "It's mine." Then it became a parade. Micah arrived with his new girlfriend. First time anyone had met her. Mouth open, he walked in. "I thought you were still doing IT stuff," I laughed. "I was." "Now I do this." Uncle Ray wrapped me in a bear hug, whispering, "You always were the dark horse." Aunt Lila's eyes welled up when she saw her room. "No one's made me feel this welcome in years," she said, voice breaking. I kept moving, greeting, pouring drinks, answering questions. Every face that crossed that doorway reminded me how long it had been since any of us felt like we mattered. By 5, the house was alive. Kids sprinting down hallways, someone strumming guitar on the back deck, Micah tending a fire pit by the lake. Laughter echoed through every room, a chaotic, warm symphony. Then we sat to eat. The long table stretched across the great room, candles flickering, bowls passing hand to hand. No kids' table, no dad's toast, no hierarchy. Just all of us, equal, welcomed, fed. The fireplace popped behind us, the ceiling reverberating with clinking glasses and real conversation. I scanned the line. 30 people who'd been sidmiconed, brushed off, overlooked. None looked bitter. They looked home. Halfway through dessert, Grandma tugged my sleeve. "Come here, Daniel." I followed her to the quiet entry hall. She took my hand. "You gave us back Thanksgiving," she said. "We needed this more than you know. You could have shut us out and no one would have blamed you, but you opened your doors. That takes guts." Her voice cracked, but no tears, just a firm squeeze. Then she returned inside as if nothing happened. I stood there, letting it sink in. Not for praise, but because it felt like a breakthrough. This wasn't Mitch's house, not Mom's or Dad's, not a rented hall or sad church basement potluck. This was mine. For the first time in my life, they came to me. The next morning, my phone vibrated endlessly. 6 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 1 text from Mitch. Really classy move. Silence all year, now my phone blew up like I'd stolen something. I tossed it aside and went downstairs. The crew was up, eating breakfast burritos, pouring coffee. Calvin mapped a hiking trail by the lake, Aunt Lila setting up a card table for a puzzle. It felt like a summer camp Saturday, chaotic but perfect. When they left for the hike, I grabbed a mug and slipped into the library. Dark wood walls, leather chairs, a large window overlooking the water. I sank into a chair, took a sip, and called Mom. First ring, she snapped, "Daniel, why didn't you tell us?" Everyone's talking about your house, your event. Even the pastor mentioned it this morning. I didn't flinch. You said you were keeping it small, so I made other plans. That wasn't about you, she said quickly. We just thought you'd be busy. Mitch's family was easier to coordinate. So you just cut out the rest of the family? I asked. She exhaled sharply. You're blowing this out of proportion. From the next room, Grandma's chair creaked by the fire. Put them on speaker, Danny. I didn't hesitate. Hit the button. What's this about? Dad asked. Grandma didn't wait. Robert, Judy, you've ignored this boy his whole life, acted like he was some quiet problem. Now you're shocked he built something without you. Be grateful he still let the family in. Dead silence. I leaned forward, saying nothing. Grandma continued. Ever think maybe if you'd made space for him at your table, you'd be there now? Silence. Dad muttered. That's not fair. No, she cut in. What's not fair is how he was treated all these years. Mom's voice came, quieter now. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Then listen, Grandma said. This isn't about a dinner. It's about who you show up for. I let the weight hang, no arguments, no apologies. They sat there, probably calculating a spin. I ended the call, set the phone down, leaned back, and stared out at the lake. For the first time in years, I felt a shift, a knot that had sat in my chest since childhood loosening. After that, I didn't touch my phone for the rest of the day. Let the cousins hike, let Grandma nap by the fire, let the twins build pillow forts in the hall. I let it all breathe. No noise, no explanations, just the house alive with life for the first time in years. That night, I cracked a beer and sank into the back deck, feet resting on the railing, watching the sky swallow the ridge my cane. Then, the texts started. First one, Mitch. No greeting, no punctuation, just, didn't expect that, but I get it. I stared at the screen, torn. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to tell him it was too little, too late. The next day, Mom texted, "Can we come visit sometime? Just the two of us?" Dad followed. Saw pictures, looks nice, proud of you. No question marks, no follow-ups, just casual, like a weather report. I didn't answer immediately. Some things don't need instant replies. Some deserve space. But when Grandma asked if she could stay a few more days, I texted back without hesitation. You can stay as long as you want. She smiled from her chair by the fireplace. That spot has my name on it, she said. I told Tom to keep her room warm and stocked with ginger snaps, just the way she liked. Over the next week, messages flooded in from cousins. Next year too? Best Thanksgiving in years. We're in if you are. No mention of Mitch, no questions about Mom or Dad. They didn't need to ask. This wasn't about who wasn't there anymore. It was about who chose to show up. One night, Micah called. You know what you did, right? You flipped the whole thing, took the holiday, and made it ours. We used to show up because it was tradition. This felt like family. His words landed deeper than he probably realized. All my life, I orbited their table, trying to belong, trying to fit in a space that never saw me. Now, I wasn't chasing that seat. I was building my own, something real, something that looked like me, felt like me, and the people who got it, that was my crew. Christmas came, and for the first time in years, I invited the old crew back. Just them, Mom, Dad, Mitch, Catherine, his wife. No big guest list, no cousins, aunts, or uncles. I wasn't trying to impress. I wanted to see if they could meet me where I was. They arrived a few days before Christmas Eve, packed into Mitch's SUV, stepping into a world I'd built. Mitch stepped out first, the familiar look on his face, skeptical, slightly impressed, mostly distant. You really built all this? He asked, eyes scanning the lodge. Then me. Every square inch, I said. No pride, no apology, just fact. Mom and Dad didn't speak at first, just glanced around, awkward in the space, unsure where to place themselves. I watched, noting their tension, their unease, realizing I no longer belonged in their old world. Dinner was in the great room. No fancy silverware, family-style plates, roast beef, mashed potatoes, a few bottles of wine. Conversation started slow, strangers searching for common ground. But it shifted. We talked, really talked. No weather, no small talk, no Mitch bragging about the shop. We went deep. Business, resentment, old wounds, all the times I'd felt invisible. They listened. It wasn't easy, but they did. Mitch stayed quiet, observing, thinking through where he fit in this new version of me. After dessert, as everyone prepared to leave, he pulled me aside, silent at first, then extended his hand. I shook it. "You did good, Danny." Real good, simple words, but enough. They left that evening. Dad shook my hand. Mom gave a half hug. Imperfect, but a start. A small, real beginning. That night, I stood by the great room window, watching thick snow swirl in the cold night air, blanketing everything in white. Wind whispered outside. Fire crackled behind me. And for the first time in my life, I felt it. Quiet, unshakable, earned peace. For once, I wasn't bitter, no anger, no longing for them to be different, no replaying how I could have been different. I was just damn satisfied that I'd finally shown them who I really was. New Year's Eve, I stood on the dock behind the lodge, bourbon in one hand, the other shoved deep in my coat pocket. The wind cut off the lake, sharp and raw, but I didn't flinch. Stars stretched pure over the water, untouched by city lights. I just stood there, letting it all sink in. It didn't feel like the end of a year. It felt like the closing of something bigger. I thought back to that kid in the garage back in Fort Wayne, burnt fingers from soldering irons, listening to Mom and Dad brag about Mitch scoring touchdowns while he tinkered with old electronics. That kid stared at blueprints, wondering if any of it would matter, if he'd ever be more than a footnote in someone else's family photos. He didn't know it then, but he was building the foundation. Now I had 38 acres, 2 companies under my belt, a family chat that finally included me, a life that looked like mine, not the one I was told to settle for. Cousins were already tossing ideas in the group thread, Thanksgiving 2.0, themed cabins, potluck rotations. It was becoming real. Grandma calls me weekly now, not just to check in, sometimes just to chat. She says she sleeps better up here, that the crackle of the fireplace is her favorite sound. Then Mom sent a recipe last week, corn pudding, tucked into a card. "Thought you might want something from home." I read it twice, unsure if it was an apology or peace offering. Either way, I kept it. Maybe next year they'll slide back into old habits. Maybe they won't show up at all. But here's the difference. I'm not waiting for a seat anymore. I built my own damn table, big enough for anyone who ever made me feel invisible. That's the rule now. Show up or don't. No more chasing approval. No more hoping someone notices. Just me, living the life I built on my terms. I raised my glass to the lake, the wind howling around me, and smiled. "Here's to the boy in the garage," I whispered, letting it echo across the water.